Welcome back, everybody. Ready to dive into something maybe a little unexpected?
I'm ready.
Today, we're tackling taxes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but not just like filing your 1040. You know?
Okay.
We're going deep into the history of taxation.
The history.
Yeah, based on this book by Conrad Reicher called The History and Power of Taxation.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like, how do we even get to this point? You know, with taxes, it's kind of crazy to think about. And how has it shaped, like, well, everything?
Yeah, you're right. It's not something you really think about every day, but it's like everywhere.
Exact. So we're going way back to like ancient civilization. You know, we think of taxes as like a modern thing. But Reicher says no way. It's been around forever.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like the Sumerians had this whole system of tributes and levies on crops
Wow.
to like fund their rulers and build stuff like pyramids and cities. Wild.
So they were basically paying taxes to build the pyramids.
Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't called that back then, but you know,
Yeah.
same idea.
That's amazing. I never thought about it like that.
Right. It really puts things into perspective.
It does.
Okay, so we've got ancient civilizations laying the groundwork.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. Religion gets involved.
Religion.
Yeah. Reicher talks about this idea of tithing.
Like giving to the church.
Exact. Donating a portion of your income. It's not just Christianity either. It's in Islam too. They call it zakat.
Oh, right. Zakat.
And Reicher's point is that this like religiously motivated giving, it kind of shaped how we think about taxes today.
Interesting.
Like the idea that we should contribute to the common good
I see.
or to some higher authority.
Yeah,
It's a pretty powerful connection when you think about it.
it is.
But okay, let's face it, no talk about taxes is complete without mentioning war.
Oh, of course.
War has always driven taxes, right?
Well,
It's expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
So governments needed ways to pay for it.
Makes sense.
Reicher has all these examples like the Roman Empire. They've used property taxes to support their legions.
Wow.
And then the American Civil War.
Yeah.
That's when income tax started in the U.S.
Really?
Yep. Crazy how these major conflicts force these big changes in how we do taxes.
That's true. You need money to fight wars, so you got to get creative.
Exactly. And those changes can stick around long after the war is over.
Income tax.
Exactly. Meant to be temporary, now it's, well, not so temporary.
I guess sometimes war changes things permanently.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is.
So we've gone from tributes to tithing to war taxes, and now we hit a turning point.
What's that?
The Industrial Revolution.
Ah, okay.
This changes everything. Not just technology, but like how we think about taxes.
That's so.
Well, before it was all about land.
You know, who owns what?
Exactly. But the Industrial Revolution, it shifts things to income.
People working in factories and stuff.
Right. So suddenly it's not just about land anymore.
It's about what you earn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And governments need a way to, you know, get a piece of that.
So what did they do?
Income tax comes in full swing.
Yeah.
It's not just about war anymore.
Okay.
It's about funding a whole new kind of society.
All that infrastructure, services, everything.
And Reicher points out, it wasn't all smooth sailing. This shift, it brought up all these questions.
Right.
Fairness, the role of government, what even is value in this crazy new world?
It really makes you think.
It does. But before we get too philosophical, we got to talk about something else.
Oh.
Tax evasion. I mean, come on.
Right.
Wherever there are taxes, there's someone trying to avoid them.
That's human nature, I guess.
And Reicher takes us through history, showing how people have been dodging taxes forever.
Oh, I bet there are some good stories there. Like what?
Well, you've got your classic bribery and corruption way back when.
Trying to pay off the tax collector, huh?
Yep. And then as trade grows, you get smuggling, undervaluing goods.
Sneaky.
Oh, yeah. And as we get closer to modern times, it gets more sophisticated.
Like what?
Offshore accounts, shell corporations, the whole 9 yards.
Wow, it's a whole hidden world.
It is. But it's not always just about greed. You know, Reicher says there's a psychology to it.
Really?
Yeah. Like if people feel the system's unfair.
They might not want to play by the rules.
Exactly. Or if they don't see where their money's going.
They're like, why bother?
Exactly. It's like a breakdown in trust.
So it's about more than just money. It's about the relationship between people and the government.
That's right. And that brings us to a big question.
Yeah.
Can taxes actually make society fairer?
That's a good question.
It is. And that's what we'll tackle next time when we continue our deep dive into the history and power of taxation.
Sounds good. I'm ready to dive back in.
Me too. But first, grab yourself a copy of The History and Power of Taxation by Conrad Reicher. You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
I think I will.
It's a great read, and it'll give you a whole new perspective on the stuff we take for granted.
I'm sure it will.
All right. Till next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
See you then.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the history and power of taxation. Last time we were talking about whether taxes can make a society fairer.
Yeah, a big question for sure.
And one way people have tried to do that is through progressive taxation.
Right, where the more you earn, the higher percentage you pay.
Exactly. So like the rich folks, shoulder more of the burden.
The idea being they can afford to.
Right. But it's controversial.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Some people say it discourages people from working hard or investing.
Yeah, like why bother earning more if the government's just going to take it?
Right. It's a tough balance, isn't it?
It is. Individual freedom versus the good of everyone.
And Riker lays out both sides really well, I think.
He does. He doesn't push one way or the other.
Just gives you the facts and lets you think for yourself.
Which is how it should be.
Okay, so progressive taxation's one way to tackle inequality. What else have people tried?
Well, there's wealth taxes, for example.
So instead of taxing income, you tax the wealth itself.
Right, like property or investment.
Makes sense if you're trying to close the gap between rich and poor.
That's the idea, but it's not that simple.
Oh, I bet.
It can be really hard to implement fairly. And sometimes it just drives wealthy people to move their money elsewhere.
Like to places with lower taxes?
Exactly. It's like trying to squeeze a balloon. You push down on one side, it just pops up somewhere else.
So it's a constant battle to find the right balance.
It is. You want a system that's fair, but you don't want to kill the economy in the process.
And then things get even more complicated when you factor in globalization.
Ah, yes, the whole world of international taxation.
Which honestly makes my head spin a little.
I get it. It can be a bit of a maze.
Like, how do you even figure out who gets to tax what when businesses operate in multiple countries?
It's a major challenge, and one of the biggest issues is double taxation.
So like you get taxed by one country and then another.
Exactly. Imagine you're a company with offices all over the world. You could potentially end up paying taxes on the same income multiple times.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It can be, which is why countries make tax treaties with each other.
Oh, right, to avoid that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's basically an agreement on how to coordinate tax policy.
So everyone gets their fair share, but nobody gets double dip.
In theory, yes, but in practice, it can get very complicated.
Oh, I bet. With lawyers and loopholes and all that jazz.
You got it. And then, of course, you have those countries that try to game the system altogether.
You mean tax havens?
Bingo. Those places with super low taxes that attract corporations and wealthy individuals.
So basically a way for the rich to avoid paying their fair share.
It's a bit more nuanced than that, but yeah, it raises a lot of ethical questions about fairness and global responsibility.
Because if everyone just takes their money to the lowest tax place, then nobody's contributing to the things we need.
Exactly. It undermines the whole idea of a social contract, and it's a problem that's becoming increasingly difficult to ignore.
So it's not just about what happens within a country's borders anymore. Taxes are a global issue.
Very much so. And this global aspect is only going to get more important as technology keeps changing how we work and earn money.
Which brings us to the big question. How do we tax the digital economy?
The million-dollar question. We'll tackle that next time as we wrap up our deep dive into the history and power of taxation.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the final part of our deep dive into the history and power of taxation. Last time we left off with this big question.
How do you tax the digital economy?
Exactly. Like a whole new world out there with online businesses and crypto and everything.
It is, and it's changing so fast. But Riker makes this interesting point.
What's that?
He says the core challenges of taxation, they haven't really changed that much throughout history.
Really? Even with all this new tech?
Yeah, think about it. Whether it's a Roman merchant selling spices on the Silk Road,
Okay,
or a tech giant operating in the cloud, a lot of the same problems come up.
like what?
Well, jurisdiction for one. Where did the economic activity actually take place?
Right, because with the internet, it could be anywhere.
Exactly. And then there's valuation. How do you put a price tag on something like, I don't know, a piece of software or a digital service?
That's a good point. It's not like a physical product you can just weigh or measure.
Right. And then there's enforcement. How do you make sure people are actually paying their taxes when transactions can happen across borders in seconds?
It sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be. But the point is, these are all age-old problems, just dressed up in new clothes.
We can learn from how these problems were dealt with in the past.
Exactly. That's why history is so important. It gives us a roadmap, even if the terrain is a little different.
So what are some of the specific challenges when it comes to taxing the digital economy?
Well, one of the biggest is that it's so easy for digital businesses to move their profits around.
Like to countries with lower taxes.
Exactly. So you could have a company based in one country, but most of its revenue comes from customers in other countries. And then the question is, who gets to tax that income?
Sounds like a recipe for countries to just keep undercutting each other.
Yeah, it's a real concern. That's why there's a lot of talk about international cooperation.
So countries working together to come up with fair rules.
Right. Like the OECD, they're trying to develop a global framework for taxing the digital economy. But it's slow going. A lot of different interests at play.
It's like trying to herd cats, probably.
Pretty much. And then on top of all that, you've got automation to think about.
Oh, yeah. Robots and AI taking over jobs. What does that mean for taxes?
It's a big question. If you have fewer people working traditional jobs, you have a smaller tax base.
So less money for the government to do what it needs to do.
Right. So people are talking about different solutions.
Like what?
Well, some people say we should tax robots.
Tax the robot.
Yeah, the idea being that if robots are taking jobs, they should contribute to the system too.
Interesting.
What else? Another idea is universal basic income.
So everyone gets a guaranteed income, regardless of whether they work or not.
Exactly. And that would be funded through taxes, of course.
Makes sense. I guess the whole concept of work is changing, so maybe we need to rethink how we fund things.
Exactly. And this is where Riker's book really leaves us with a lot to think about. He doesn't give us all the answers.
But he makes you ask the right question.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, taxes are about more than just money.
It's about values.
Yeah, it's about how we want society to work, how we want to share the burdens and the benefits, and those are conversations we all need to be part of.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the history and power of taxation. It's been a wild ride.
It has. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. And if you're intrigued by all this and want to learn more, be sure to check out the book. It's called The History and Power of Taxation by Conrad Riker. You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Highly recommend it. It'll change the way you think about taxes.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.